All right, everyone. We're here live. I got my good friend, uh, Michael. How do you pronounce your last name, Michael?
It's Moran.
Moran. That's what I thought. Just want to pronounce it correctly. Michael Moran. Um,
It's okay.
he's got two Facebook groups. One is the Cryptid Squad, and the other is All Cryptid Stuff. Uh, Michael, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got involved in this crazy genre that we're involved in.
Oh, well, I'm originally was born in Atlanta, Georgia. I was raised in Texas, and pretty much all my life I've been a comic movie junkie, and um, even did a little professional wrestling as a microphone guy. Did some play-by-play, and worked for a gentleman named Cowboy Johnny Mantell, who worked for Fritz von Erich back in the day, World Class Championship, and got my start kind of late, as I guess the promotions were sort of fading out, and so that was really a lot of fun, and worked at this really cool club called Afterlife, and throughout the years, I had some paranormal experiences myself, but as time went by, I became more of a fan when I started watching certain shows, like I believe Paranormal Witness, and there was probably one more that I can't think of right now. But I have had some situations go on, so we'll definitely be talking about that. But as time went by, I just was sitting with one of my buddies, and I met him over at an anime convention. And next thing we started talking, I said, let's get a group going because I had like a comic group, wrestling group, and actually I had two comic groups. Come to think of it, sorry, my apologies. I have three comic groups. One
Oh,
that's like nationwide,
wow.
yeah, but they all have different names. So like one's like comic movie fans, I believe it's Unite, hardcore movie fans Unite, and just comic movie fans Unite. Don't ask me how that all came about, but
Okay.
man, it's a and I even ran a little internet radio station at the time with my friend
Okay.
Travis, and so that was fun. But now I'm loving the heck out of cryptids. You
Yeah.
know, I love finding stuff and finding shows and sharing it,
Yeah.
with people, and like you and what you do, and what Josh Turner does, and pretty much everybody else that's out there.
Right. Right. So, real quick, you talked about the comic stuff. I used to be in the comic books really heavily myself. I mean, so was that something you were into from the time you were a kid, or what?
Still am. I draw
Okay.
from time to time.
Oh, do you? Okay.
Yeah, I do what they call the chibi art, which is in Japan. They're the tiny characters.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I don't have anything with me, but I'll have to show you here in a bit. But they're
Yeah.
amazing,
Okay.
and I
Yeah.
still
Yeah.
collect them.
Oh, do you? Okay. That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Matter of fact, back there you can see a little bit of my posters back there.
Okay. Oh, that's your artwork.
No, that's not my artwork, but that's a
Oh.
lot of the posters I
Okay.
collect, and
All
yeah,
right. Yeah.
some of them, just a few.
Okay. That's pretty cool. Yeah. I used to be in the comics pretty heavily. Then I got out of it when I guess I probably got into my 30s and started my kids were getting bigger and needed my more of my attention. I guess my daughter draws. She draws like all kinds of stuff too. Man, she's into like anime and yeah,
Oh
she'll show
wow.
that. Yeah, oh, yeah, she draws really well. Um, yeah. So what actually as far as like the paranormal stuff, what kind of experiences have you had with that?
Oh wow. It all like seemed like it always happened when I was like 6 years old, when I was really small, and things were
Right.
just slowly coming together and everything. So I mean, like light switches flickering and just lots of bad dreams. I had a lot of bad dreams. I always felt like uh it felt like not so much like I was being watched. I never had that feeling, but
Right.
I actually had the feeling more like I was kind of scared to go to sleep sometimes, to be honest with you. I was having, there'd be times I'd be laying down,
Hmm.
kid you not, and I would, no more than like maybe 5 or 10 minutes, I'd be laying down and something would shake me and wake me up. And I got to the point where sometimes I didn't even want to sleep for a while. I'd wait till it was like daylight, and it was really
Wow.
weird. Actually, I wasn't messing with during the day.
Hmm.
That's
Yeah.
not entirely true, but anyways.
Yeah, I've had experiences similar to that. Yeah.
All right, so I can share this with you. I've seen I've seen a spirit at least 2 times, I want to say.
Hmm.
I don't know if that's what they call manifestation, like something manifests itself.
All
I
right.
watch a lot of these shows and people say how they seen something, and I've only seen something once, and I'll describe to you what it looks like. You know how you'll take a cigarette and
Hmm.
you'll blow it, and it's like a lost smoke. It just goes out like a cloud.
Yeah.
That's what I saw in my room in 1993 when I was living in my house in Benbrook.
Hmm.
I kid you not. And my dad had all these smoke alarms. And I remember I was in the back and I had a dog named Shadow. And I was tying my shoe. I was getting ready to leave for the night, hang out with some friends because I was working at this grocery store at the time as a package clerk, going through high school and all that.
Hmm.
So my dog, he's looking up, and I look up. At first, I thought maybe he's looking at like some kind of insect,
Hmm.
because we get like mosquito eaters
Yeah.
every
Yeah.
once in a while, something like that. So I look and see what he's looking at, and then I look up, and all of a sudden I'm like, "Whoa!" I see the smoke
Hmm.
up in the room, like in the middle of the room, and I can see it clear as day, and I'm thinking, something on fire. But then I was wondering, why hasn't my dad's smoke alarm, the ones that he installed, why haven't the smoke alarms gone off yet? And I kid you not, it just kind of went and slow. It didn't go slow, but I mean, if I could put it in slow motion, I mean, it went fast, but it like sucked in like a suction cup, like a funnel.
Yeah.
You know how like when you do dishwater and
Hmm.
and and you open up that little top part and
Hmm.
the water goes like a little funnel.
Right.
That's pretty much how it looked with the cloud that I saw, and then it just like made a pop sound and it disappeared. And then I looked at my dog, and he had that confused, weird look, like dogs turn their heads.
Yeah.
And I'm looking up. I got the hell out of there, and it was
Hmm.
so funny because I never told anybody about a lot of the things that were happening. It took a while to tell someone what was going on because I wasn't really thinking about it, at first, like what was going on or what was happening. And, you know, I think what raised an eyebrow more was when my dog was sitting on my parents' bed, and the way my room was like over here to the
Hmm.
left. Was I don't know. Okay, there we go. Was over here to the left, and then you direct across from it is their room, and there was like the wall, and there was a closet in between. My dog was literally on my parents' bed, looking up at the wall, barking. I went in there and sat down and looked at the bed. I mean, not in the bed. I was sitting on the bed looking at the wall, and I'm sitting there like, "What are you barking at? What are you looking at?" And it just like really caught my interest. I'm sitting there thinking, "What is going on?" So I started piecing things together and everything,
Hmm.
pretty much.
Abe says, "Howdy, fellas."
Hey Abe, how are you doing? All right. So the very first time I remember I had an experience with this thing, I remember having a bad dream, and I was in my room, and my cousins were next to me. They were spending a night, and this is my Aunt Virginia, basically her kids. They were spending the night, and I had my two cousins there. And I remember waking up screaming and crying, and I was young at this time, maybe 6, 7, 8. I go running from my room, dashing to the middle. Now, keep in mind, and I turned on the light. I'm looking towards where my room is, okay? Because I moved around rooms. So when I was younger, I stayed on the other side of the house, and as I got older, I just moved my room back that way because I ended up getting a brother and sister as I got older, and I let them have my room, and my sister had my room. My little brother had, the room next to where my cousins were. So as my cousins are opening up the door, they're looking at me, and I can see them, and I'm more focused on what just happened because I had a bad dream, and I all I can tell you is when I woke up, I felt the presence of a lot of activity in there, and I had this little night light, so it looked like a bunch of shadows.
Mhm.
And as crazy as this seems, there was this rocking chair that I had as a kid, and it was actually moving back and forth.
Hmm.
And I remember my parents got me this big rabbit from a friend, and in my dream, I saw this rabbit, and it looked like it was coming at me. And I don't know too much about how spirits work with dolls and
Mhm.
objects. I, Still to this day, I realize if they can attach themselves to things.
Mhm.
So as a kid, back then, as I got a little bit older, I told my mom I didn't want that doll. She got rid of it. It was something like you would get like at a Six Flags or something. It was a pretty
Okay.
big sized doll. But I remember that happening, and that was like the first bad dream that I had. And my aunt came out because she was staying there in the back where I was sleeping as I got older. She came out and she was asking me, "You okay?" And I don't know where my parents were.
Mhm.
I went to their bed, lied down, and like I said, that was the very first time that I had experienced something like that. And oh man, I could just write a book about all these experiences.
Mhm. Yeah. Isn't that why is that rocking chair? Because you see that like in a bunch of like paranormal movies. There's always shows that rocking chair rocking back and forth. You always see that. That's always like got to be spooky to actually see it in person. I don't know what it is about a rocking chair rocking by itself. Yeah.
With the lights out the way I was waking up, knowing that it's already mine as a kid,
Hmm.
maybe to anyone else it might be spooky, but I think like since it was mine, I wasn't creeped out, but I was more like just trying to figure out what was going on
Hmm.
because this was all new to me at that time, and I'm scared out of my mind. But I hear what you're saying.
Yeah. So do you think that this activity was just at this house, or was there something about you that you were sensitive to, or anybody else there in the house that may have been sensitive to the stuff, or?
My mom says as I got older, I started asking questions,
Mhm.
and she says, "Well, I never seen anything."
Mhm.
And she's like, "And your aunt never seen anything, and your dad's never had no problem."
Hmm.
I got the I found out from my mom later on that actually she ended up correcting herself and saying, "Yes, your aunt did say that she saw things and
Mhm.
stuff there." But my mom shrugged it off. And then as time went by, my mom's like, "Don't ask her. Don't ask her." I'm like, "Well, there went that opportunity." And I saw her like last year in 2019, and I was like this close to asking her, and I was looking at her. She's like, no, no.
No, man.
Okay.
Maybe, maybe one day you'll get the opportunity to talk to her about that. Yeah. So,
I hope.
yeah. So, what got you into the whole cryptid thing? What was that little journey like?
Well, watching the whole paranormal, um, or the paranormal witness, when I saw the episode with the wolf pack, man, I just thought that was just so amazing.
Okay. Which one
It
was
was
that
just
one?
what
Was that the one where
what
the guy and his wife moved into that property and the guy had like a bad back or something? Was that one it? And he had put his guns in the barn, and him and his wife were yeah, okay, yeah, yeah. That was a
yes.
great episode. As a matter of fact, Vic Cundiff, me and him, we used to communicate all the time back and forth, and he's gone his way, I've gone my way. I think we're still good friends, but we used to communicate all the time. He told me about that episode, and so when we watched it, I remember my daughter watched it, and man, she was so scared of that episode. When I would tell Vic about it, he would get a kick out of it. It was pretty cool. But yeah, Vic is the one that told me about that episode, and I always remember it because of my daughter, how scared she was.
They were werewolves. That's the impression that I've got of the
Mhm.
show. And I started one night, I got a wild hair up my butt, and I got on my little laptop, started typing, and I was like, werewolves, werewolves. Let's see if there's anything on werewolves. Because I saw 2 episodes about werewolves on there. There was another one about a gentleman that worked at a tire shop, and they thought he was locking himself in this house or something out in the woods. And
Mhm.
I thought that was really fascinating. So, anyways, one night I'm sitting here like typing in werewolves, werewolf sightings, because I saw something else before in Romania on one of those like Monster Quest shows where like some giant wolf like went into this town and everybody just like was abandoned and just like took off like crazy. So I started Googling all this, and of course I ended up getting Beast of Bray Road,
Mhm.
and then I ended up getting, from Linda Godfrey, her book, and then I ended up seeing Dogman Encounters.
Mhm.
I kid you not, the very first episode I tuned into was with Josh Turner, and I was instantly hooked. I believe it was 115 or 116. So the very first time I started listening to it. And then I went all the way back to episode number 1. And the funny thing was, each week a new episode would come out, and I would listen to episode 2, and I just kept going all the way until I was getting caught up. So finally, I said, you know what? This is gonna take forever. So I would just listen to the episodes as they come out, and then I would still go back in time and work my way to 3. New
Mhm.
episode come out, episode 4. You catch where I'm going with this. So going back in time, I had an experience, and I was listening to one of his shows. And I'm going to share something with you. We lived in Houston in 1983, Pearland. It's
Okay.
kind of like on the outskirts. And
Yeah.
you'll probably see why I thought this was a cougar when I tell you this story. When we lived in this house, there was this cougar, okay, that the neighbors had 2 houses down. We didn't really have like fences. It was weird. We had like this river in the back. It turned into a creek somehow, and it had like a miniature dam. And these neighbors had a cougar, and the 3 of my friends went over there, and we banged on that cage. We're like, pow, pow, pow. We thought it was funny. And I would tell my mom, I said, look, we're banging on this cage. She's like, are you crazy? Do you know what that thing can do if it gets loose? And I'm like, oh, well, our fun's over. I guess you're right. So, anyways, remembering that back then in '83, don't ask me what I was thinking. All right. We're kids. Anyways, so me and a bunch of friends are hanging out later on, like, I want to say, I remember 1991 or 90. And we just heard that they were developing this new area, and it was going to be all like private housing. It was going to have like a little miniature lake. You know how they like to build little mini lakes and stuff or ponds or whatever to like a nice housing addition. So they started digging in like this, going kind of deep. And my friend's like, "Oh wow, let's go in there. This looks really cool." So we all went in there, and it was neat because we're walking around in the dirt, like we climbed down, and we're just like, "Oh wow, this is neat." So I'm the first one that's going back up. The moon was beautiful. It was bright. It was full. It was shiny. I'm the first one that climbs up. I put both of my hands like this, and I'm eye level like this, and I'm looking. The moonlight hits the paw prints. They were like, let me see if I get you. They were big.
Mm-hmm.
It gets a little more. And I'm looking at these, and I'm like looking around. I'm like, oh my god, where's this cougar at? That's the first thing that popped in my mind, right? I'm looking for this cougar. Okay, you ready for this? So we get up. I didn't tell nobody. All right. So time goes by. La la la. I'm listening to Vic's show. And all of a sudden, I hear about how these things can stand on two hind legs. I had a flashback of that day. I said, wait a minute. I don't remember there being four prints. No, it couldn't have been. I'm sitting here thinking about that. Like, no, 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 no. Could that have been? No, 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 no. I'm sitting here thinking like, no, that's not enough proof to go on that something was there.
Right.
And I'm sitting there the whole time just thinking about this. So yeah, that happened, and then later on, me and my mom were coming back from Windstar Casino, and we stopped off near Denton Alliance. It's
Okay.
about 3 in the morning, and we're getting gas and stuff. And I'm like, I got to use the restroom, so she's getting gas. She never parks up near where the front parking is for some reason. She always stays at the pump, even if she gets out. I'm like halfway awake and asleep. And I just go to the restroom. I'm like, all right. She's like, do you want anything to eat? I'm like, I'm ready to get home. We step outside. There again, the moon is full.
Hmm.
And I hear this. My eyes are up. I mean, like they're looking. I'm looking around, and she's like, "What was that?" And I go, "Time to go, time to go, man, time to go." We get in the car, and I start to like close my eyes and go to sleep. And I'm sitting there thinking, she just heard this.
Hmm.
She asked me what this is. I should let her know. I get on my phone immediately. I type in Dogman Encounters 116. She hears the intro. She's sitting there, she's driving. And then she starts hearing the story, and she's like looking her. I don't know what was going through her head. I haven't asked her like what her thoughts were. But I think to this day that she really doesn't want to know about Dogman because I've told her about it, and she knows about it. And she's like, I don't want to hear about all that stuff. That creeps me out. And I'm thinking probably because she heard a howl, an actual howl. And I was asking Vic, I said, Vic, I need to ask you a question. Can Bigfoots howl? And he's like, sure they can. So I've never seen one. I don't know if that was cougar prints to this day or Dogman prints, but
Yeah.
and wow, but yeah, sorry.
No, and you would think if those if they let that cougar go or if it got out, they would have told everyone in the area, hey, just so you know, our kitty got out, or we let him go or something, Um,
Oh, but
yeah,
that was in Houston, and this
yeah,
took place in Fort Worth when we
okay,
went looking for that when we went to that I'm sorry about that. When we went down in that little place that was
okay,
being dug for a creek. So I don't know. I hope someone else didn't have a pet out there.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't know how are there cougar sightings in that area?
I've
'Cause I-
always heard as a kid when I was in Nacogdoches, Texas, my
okay,
grandmother had family out there. Her dad lived out there, and I
okay,
guess mom. And we used to go out there when I was a little kid, and they would talk about pumas. And I'm
mm,
sure you've probably heard about pumas. See, that's the
yeah,
thing that I've always was thinking more or less that cougars might be more in the area of like Big Bend, Texas, or something like that.
Yeah. Um,
I don't think so, but I
right.
was always told that there are pumas in the
Mhm,
area,
mhm.
so I don't doubt that wildcats can be out there.
Yeah. Um, but this part of Texas, I guess from where you're at to where I'm at, I think there's plenty of documented dogman sightings. Much less Bigfoot sightings, for that matter. And it's funny you bring up Nacogdoches. I don't know, 3-4 years ago, I had a decal made for a truck. It was a Bigfoot decal, and it was a guy that not too far from my house. I found him on Facebook, and I saw he was nearby. I said, "Shoot, I'm gonna give him a call and have him uh, make a decal for me." So I sent him over some artwork, and when I went to go pick it up a couple of days later, he was like, "Hey man, what's going on with this? What's up with this Bigfoot stuff? And but he wasn't like making fun of me or anything. He was serious. We were both kind of laughing about it. And I told him, I said, I researched Bigfoot. And he's like, my family lives up in Nacogdoches. That's where his family was from. And he said that his uncles and his dad and even his grandmother told him stories that there was a Bigfoot that would come up to their house at night. They're in Nacogdoches and look in the window when she would bathe the kids. Which her uncles, I mean his uncles and dad were little, of course. And then his uncles told him a story that they were walking down to the tracks, and they had just put that white rock, those big white rocks that they put at the railroad tracks, and they were walking and they got within, I don't know, 50, 60 feet. And all of a sudden, this one stood up. They didn't even see it because it was solid white. And it stood up and blended in perfect with the rocks and it walked off into the woods. So it was just made me think about that when you talked about Nacogdoches. And
Wow.
there's plenty of course, encounters up there too. I got one of my cousins. He actually rented a cabin out there one day, and he said he heard something howling and just howling, and it just get closer and closer. And it was like, I don't know, maybe 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. And he said I don't know how far the wood line was, maybe 100 yards away from his cabin. And he said when they got right up to that wood line, whatever was howling pushed a tree over. Yeah. So that was all there in Nacogdoches. So Nacogdoches is a pretty active area too.
That's got to be some strength
Yeah.
pushing a tree like that.
Yeah. 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 I
Most
was
of them
actually,
things about 9 feet, maybe 8 foot.
yeah. Well, I'm sure even a 7-footer got plenty of strength to do it. These things get pretty massive. I was out one day with Brandon Garrett. Where we're going down this road. We're out in the middle of freaking nowhere, and I had a flat, and I'm changing my tire. And as I'm trying to change my tire, I'm trying to check the lug nuts off. We hear a tree get pushed over. You hear just pop, 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 and it just got pushed over. And I looked at him, and he's like, that was a tree got pushed over. I said, was that meant for us? He's like, I don't think so. But he goes, we need to hurry up. We had to run back into town and get a tire and come back out there. And it was almost dark. So it was kind of creepy out there. But,
It gets very, very dark. I'll tell you about Oklahoma real quick. I want to tell you some stories out there. Um, Everybody was talking about this Bigfoot that was very, very aggressive, and I'm sure you've heard the story before. And I've been out there a couple of times, but I didn't go down towards Brown Springs Road or anything or the
mm,
cemetery. But what I was doing was I took some pictures, not only of the way the river goes straight down, but I wanted to get a view. And I'm going to tell you this real quick. I've been asking a lot of questions, to people about, the river. I was like, so what's it like fishing there? Just kind of getting to know the area. I'll say this real quick. You can't go in there because they said it's muddy. You can get stuck. Uh, some areas aren't good to go in and that. But when I was down there, I mean, I had the honor of talking to a lady, and of course, this was at Windstar, but I was at Choctaw. I was wearing a shirt, and it was the Beast of Boggy Creek shirt. And she stopped me, and she was from a tribe. I'm not sure she was from Arizona, New Mexico. Um, but I had a chance to ask her, about Bigfoots, and I believe she was saying something about like they have like reddish brown hair and stuff, and trying to remember the story exactly, how she put it. It's been a while since I heard it, but I do know that I asked her about the dog people, and I was mentioning like shamans, and she did say that there was this guy that was a shaman, and he left or disappeared or something, and nobody's seen him in a really long time. And one day he just pops up into the village and just starts walking in there. I believe it was the village or town or something like that. She said, I can't quite remember, but I know for a fact that she said that everybody was eyeballing this guy. He wasn't even looking at anybody like it was a care in the world, but he grabbed what he needed and he was on his way like nothing happened, and nobody seen or heard from him again, and he was just gone. And I
Huh.
guess, I mean, I don't know if he had a house out in the wilderness or what he was doing, or he had some land or property, because I didn't ask all those, questions, but I just thought that'd be neat to share real quick.
Yeah.
But anyways, being out in Oklahoma, apparently there was a Bigfoot that killed two people, and I heard that on another show. And when I was out there, I'd try and take pictures of the property line. I didn't go in there
Yeah.
now because that's private property, but
Right.
there's a lot of wooded area there. And I
Yeah.
can see what they mean by there being a Bigfoot in there.
Hmm.
And apparently they were saying that this thing is just really aggressive, you
Hmm.
know. But I've never seen them. I've never smelt anything. They say that you smell stuff. I have
Hmm.
trouble breathing, so it
Okay.
might be kind of hard for
Hmm.
me with my allergies and everything. But I do got a neat Dogman story to tell you.
Yeah. Go ahead.
It's
Go ahead.
kind of short. I have a friend named Christian. Okay, when I go, I'm a kidney transplant patient, and he works at Harris Hospital as a valet. And this is neat. So we'd sit there and talk sports all the time. I mean, we just talk football and sports. So got to get to know each other for about 2 or 3 years, and the other crew was away from him, and I knew that we were talking about deer hunting and stuff, because that's our conversation that we got into. None of the other guys were in the hunting and all that. I don't hunt, but he was talking about what he was doing for the weekend one time. And I was like, oh, what's it like? And I would just ask him questions. And out of nowhere, I asked him, I said, you ever seen anything weird? Like anything out there where you're hunting that you can't explain? And he's like, yeah, once. And he tells me that he was on a friend's deer lease with about 4 or 5 people, and he said that there's some coyotes or something like that. I want to get the story right. I tried to message him. He didn't message me back so I could get the story 100%, because I can tell you this much. I've talked to the guy 2 times, and he's told me almost the same exact thing, that him and his friend were told to go scare the coyotes off or make sure they don't come around to get the deer. And he said that he saw this pair of red eyes. And I had the chance of asking, well, how big was this? And I want to say that he said like 6 or 7 feet, something like that.
Hmm.
And I said, well, what do you think it was? And he's like, well, me and my friend knew it wasn't a cow, because cows don't have, they don't stand that tall. I want to say that he said that he doesn't think that they have red eyes, but he said that it was looking around the tree like that when he had, I guess, what they call the eye shine. But
Yeah.
isn't that neat? He said that he saw this thing like that, and they got out of there. He looked at his friend and said, "Let's go." But that was it on that one.
Yeah. Yeah. I've heard a lot of stories like that. Where people see the eye shine. 6, 7 feet up in the air, and it's like there's no way it's a deer or a or a cow, like you said, or a horse. Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm eating a little beef jerky while I'm talking to you. Turkey
Oh, you're
jerky.
good. You're okay.
Got my dog to the right of me, and I keep feeding him. Well, he's waiting to be fed. I broke these up for him. Anyways, I'll tell you about my dad's cousin named Fred. He was driving one time, and I asked him why. he thought about cryptids, and he's in the group too. And he said that he witnessed Bigfoot.
Really?
He said he was never a believer. And what happened with him was he was driving down this highway. And the next thing you know, he said he saw this person running like a marathon, going fast. And there's like this big fence, like you know how they have the cattle and all that. And he just jumps over the fence like nothing and keeps going.
Wow.
And he said that there's a place called, you might know this, you've heard of it in Texas, Bigfoot County or something like that, or Bigfoot Road. Google
Yeah,
that when you get a chance.
yeah. There's actually a couple of places like that here in Texas, actually. Yeah,
Okay, so you know what I'm talking about then.
yeah, yeah. Hmm.
But he said that he saw this thing just hauling butt. It was just coming out of the field, left field. And you know, he's driving and he says in the corner of his eye he sees this thing. And it's just, or he thought it was a person. He did just, the person was just like, okay. And it just ran across the road and boom, it just took off like nothing happened.
That's pretty cool. And this
Yeah.
was a conversation that you just brought up to him just out of the blue, or
Yeah, he came down to see me and
okay,
stuff. And he was, you know, I hadn't seen him in a while. He's my dad's cousin on my dad's side of the family.
okay,
He drove all the way from Buda, Texas, and we went and ate at I can't remember the name of the hamburger place next to the in that area. But anyway, it's like not Humperdinck's. It's a really nice hamburger restaurant. But I've even had a friend, Jonathan, who told me something. He was like, "Man," and I got to get his story to you. It's not long, but I mean, the way he was describing it, he said he smelled the odor and the same exact thing. He said he saw this thing running. So I'm not sure if it was day or nighttime when this happened
yeah,
with him, but I'm guessing it's day because obviously you're seeing something run,
yeah,
but that
yeah.
was
It
kind of cool.
um, yeah. That's one thing I was going to ask you also about. You just talking to people. Do you just approach people, or are you careful how you do it, or do you not even care anymore? Because I know. Sometimes when you start talking about stuff like this, and it's funny, man, you can talk about UFOs and paranormal, and you can get a little reaction. We talk about Bigfoot, and people almost look at you like you got a third eye, or something, But
You talk Dogman, they really think you're crazy. You
oh
talk
yeah,
Pugwagee, the Pudgwagee,
hmm
through the roof. They won't even. They'll laugh at you and be like, "All
yeah,
right."
yeah. I think when you and I first started talking, you sent me a link on that to check it out, and I checked it out, and I really want to get more involved into that too. There's so much stuff I really want to get involved in, outside the cryptid realm, but also within the cryptid. There's so many cryptids out there. Um, but yeah, it's funny. If you don't talk about this, you'll never get responses, And it's funny. It's just like I'll ask people, and sooner or later, boom, I get a hit. Somebody's like, "Oh yeah, I had an experience," or I know somebody who said they saw it. Um, where I used to work at, I worked there for like 15 years, and so everyone there knew what I was involved with. Uh, People will come up to me and tell me, "Hey, I knew somebody who, who saw Bigfoot, who had a Bigfoot experience. My boss was getting a tattoo, and the guy doing the tattoo, and he had a little girl there, maybe 5 or 6 years old, and one of the Bigfoot shows, was on TV, and she was watching it, and she came over and she asked her dad something about the Bigfoot, and he answered a question, So my buddy getting a tattoo, my boss getting a tattoo, goes, "Yeah, I got a friend of mine at work. He's really involved in that stuff." He's like, "Oh yeah." He goes, "Yeah, my mom saw a Bigfoot in Oklahoma." So it's just funny, man. If you talk about it, people will respond, But you
I
won't.
got it, Jordy.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
no, I was gonna say, you won't know if you don't ask.
No, you're right, and it's really funny because I got a story to tell you about that. There's this guy that I knew, and apparently he was doing like lighting and stuff when we were at the clubs, and I believe his name is Kurt, and He told me that he'd go out with a small crew to Oklahoma, and they would take pictures and they'd stay out there and stuff and bring the camera. And I said, well, cool. At the time, I go, well, cool. Can my crew come? And he's like, well, we're professionals and stuff. I'm like, okay. He ended up calling me. Do you still got your crew? I'm like, yeah, what's up? My crew doesn't want to do it anymore. Okay. Dude, you wouldn't believe what happened. Okay, I was sick, I wasn't feeling good, and I was coughing. And the next you know, we come back and our tents tore up. And he's talking about Oklahoma, and I'm like, so you need my crew.
That's pretty
True
cool.
story.
That's pretty cool. So,
But we never got
so
to
do
do
you
it.
yourself go out? So do you yourself go out and do investigations or overnight or anything like that?
I do, but I'm going to tell you something. It's really hard, in my opinion, to see at night. I understand having like the thermal and all
Mhm.
that so you can see. I was in Burnett, Texas,
Okay.
and as we were going down the road on that highway road that, goes straight, it's dark. I mean, you could see the shadow of the deer on the side of the roads, like literally. And after this, I got a really cool story to tell you about Carlsbad Caverns. But as we're going down the road, I mean, it's completely dark. And I want to say something to you real quick. The Dogman and Bigfoot apparently are really hard to see. And I heard this from Larry Batson, and I agree with him. If you're going to go out looking, sometimes you might want to go during the day so that way you can at least look for some prints. You can look for, you have a better chance of seeing a lot more things because we all know that the Dogman has a lot of black fur and
Mhm.
it being just dark, it's just going to be really hard to see him. I
Yeah.
mean, and
Well,
it's nothing. Yeah.
these creatures blend in so well in the daytime. That's bad enough. And so in the nighttime, but you're strictly in their territory. And I told a story before, but I'll tell it real quick. We were at the zoo one day, and I saw this. There was like these little black monkeys. I don't know what the heck they're called. They were, I don't know, maybe 2, 3 feet tall.
Gibsons?
Yeah, they were small little ones. And this little monkey jumped into this tree. I saw him with my own eyes jump into this tree, and we're all standing around. The different people. We're all like, man, where does little ass go? Because we saw him go into this tree, and he was like, I mean, he was like a little tiny, tiny monkey. I mean, he wasn't extremely like a gorilla or a chimpanzee, but he was big enough for us to see him, definitely. And we were like, man, where did
Was it
he
like
go?
this?
Yeah, he jumped up in that tree, and we couldn't see him anymore. And it wasn't like it was a really, really thick tree. I mean, it had a lot of foliage on it, but these animals know how to blend into their environment. So yeah, it's one thing in the daytime; it's a whole different ball game at night. You know. Yeah, but go ahead with your story. I'm sorry.
So when we were out there, I took pictures and I went during the day. Of course, I went out during the night and I looked around at night and I'm just like, wow. Okay, I'm gonna tell you this real quick. They had a tent set up. Okay, it was a big, like overhead, like it was flat, and they had like the black light set up and stuff.
Mhm.
And they're having like a little mini festival, and I'm like, yeah, well, I'm gonna go looking for Dogman. Y'all have fun. So basically, I was out looking around the property line. Of course, I was there to party and eat fajitas and all that, and
Yeah.
drink a couple of beers because this place had a lake and it was set. I mean, it had a lot of property. But here's the thing: this giant thing comes into the tent, and this guy from England, he's like a DJ, and he's next to me, and he's like, "Wait, mate, what is that thing?" And we're all looking at it, and it's moving around. I think that's a bird, a sparrow. And he's like, "No." He's like, "There's no way that's a sparrow. The way the black light's hitting, it's like giving it different colors." It was a moon moth. I
Oh.
never knew what the heck a moon moth was. until I witnessed like with my own eyes, and the guy was on Google, and he's like, "Oi, mate, it's a moon moth." I'm like, "That was quick." I had no idea, but it was just so neat because you never know what kind of species are out there.
Right.
And my point of the story is that I went during the day, and it was a lot more better to see. And I actually got to venture off in the land. I took pictures, and I'll send them to you. I found bones, literally.
Hmm.
I don't know what it was, and I was talking to Chris Cyrus from the Venomous Springs, and I said, "Bro, what do you think this was?" And he's like, "I wouldn't be worried about what that was. I'd be worried about what did that." So his thinking about that at that time, I actually was on the same page with him. Sorry, I got a little tear there laughing. And I'm walking down this road, and I just hit the most beautiful spot in Burnett, Texas. And I'll send you these pictures. They're beautiful. I could literally see the hills. I mean, like it looked like mountains, but they're not mountains because Texas doesn't
Yeah.
have mountains, or maybe I don't know.
Yeah.
But
We're
anyways,
in
it was just so
West Texas.
yeah, okay, West Texas. So it's so beautiful. And I'm just sitting there like enjoying this. And I'm looking down at the terrain and it drops and you can't see nothing. And I remember hearing about Dogman activity.
Mhm.
And I wasn't more worried about Dogman. I actually had the feeling like maybe I should leave because what if there is like a mountain lion or a cougar or some kind of species out here that or a hog or something that
Right.
attacks me? And I looked around and I was miles away from anybody. And I said, "Man, there ain't nobody out here to help me." So I hightailed it and booked it. So I'm
Mhm.
gonna be honest with you, man. Yeah, I go out and stuff, but I like to do the day because you can see things. You can look for tracks, and
Yeah.
you can, see, like I said, bones, and take good pictures and go back and look over everything,
Yeah, right.
even though nothing's there. I'm not taking the pictures just to see something in the shadow, but I'm going back over the pictures to figure out, okay, where does this going to lead to if I go back? Maybe I can try and get more maps or something and figure out where I can go. But man, you talk about there's no way you could see something if you're in the dark. And it always makes me wonder when people say that they have these eyewitness accounts in the dark, do they got moonlight? Do
Yeah.
they got barn light? And the closest thing I can imagine is being on the road at night and something is in the middle of the road, and the next thing you know, you see it with your headlights. That's the only thing I can think of. I'm not doubting people's stories.
Right.
For
Right.
me, it would be really hard to see what's out there because I don't have a thermal
Right.
or anything, a FLIR or anything like that. I've got flashlights, and I would much rather be with a group of people and be able to see what's going on. And if we do go at night, you know, I'd rather be with a big group of people and stuff. But yeah.
Yeah, that's what I like to try to do. Especially if I don't know the area, I'll go out first during the daytime and scout the area, and that way when I go back at night, at least I'm familiar with it. Uh, me and me and Sal, we've done that a couple of times with the times that we've gone out together. Since he's moved out of the Houston area, we haven't been able to get together, but we've gone out in the daytime together and scouted an area. But he's excellent at doing that. He's that's his military training kicking in when he's doing that kind of stuff. So he's always fascinated
Oh
to watch.
wow.
Yeah, to watch him work. That's pretty impressive, and I'm sure a lot of military veterans can probably relate to that. Especially guys like like him, and he's awesome. Uh, but but yeah,
I
at
went.
nighttime, at nighttime, as far as sightings go, um, even when it's really dark, if there's a moon, then it lights up pretty well. You know, so if there's enough moonlight, it definitely lights up the area pretty good. You can see stuff. But yeah,
It helped.
I've also been out there where it's pitch black, and it was funny when you were talking about walking away from camp. I was thinking about that. I walked away from camp one day and I walked back and I passed up the camp because I couldn't see it. It was so dark. I had to turn back around. I was like, man, I think I walked too far. It was pretty funny. So it's,
As long as you didn't run into a skunk like I did. A lot when I was a lot younger, I was, I was with a camp group, and we were at Possum Kingdom Lake,
oh,
and I
dude,
know you know where that place
yeah,
is.
yeah,
And you know the stories about the catfish in the waters, how they said they get to be giant
right,
catfish.
right, right,
Well, we know they're out there,
right.
and one day I'm sitting here thinking, okay, well, I'm going to go on a little journey because I'm not going to go for a swim. Everybody's like, oh, let's go for a swim. And all of a sudden I start looking at the water and I'm like, there's giant catfish here. And everybody's like, well, what are you talking about? And I'm like, I'm okay. I'm fine. I'm just gonna walk on land. So I had a couple of the kids from youth walk with me back when I was younger, and we all go walking and stuff. And we're like talking about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and all those cool movies. All of a sudden, we see the skunk, and we're like, ah! We go screaming and running back the other way, and the moon hits it just perfect. I think the skunk was more scared of us than we were scared of it, but we hightailed it. But could you imagine seeing like a Dogman or something being at that age? We would all been gone just as
Yeah,
fast as a skunk, and that was
yeah.
just a skunk.
Yeah. I think I almost hate to run into a skunk, almost as bad as a dog, man.
Okay, I got this cool story to tell you about Carlsbad Caverns.
Okay.
All right, so real quick, I want to give a shout out real quick to Josh Turner and all my crew. I have the best admins and mods. So I want to give a shout out to Krissa, Sam Rodriguez, Abe, Josh Turner, and Tony. And I want to say a shout out to your crew as well. You're doing awesome, by the way. And anybody else that's out there doing their thing, much love and much respect. All right, so Sam Rodriguez, he was writing the story that he heard in Carlsbad Caverns. And of course, you know, the cryptozoologist Scott Martis, he's a water cryptozoologist. So I had the chance to ask him because I was kind of curious on what it was. In the caverns, they have these waters and they have these little holes, I guess you can pop under and go into the next cave. They're a geologist or something. Let me know if you know this story.
No, I know the caverns. I've actually been there a couple of times, but yeah.
Oh, you have?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, this people went missing, and apparently the cable cord got snapped. So they were feeding the cable, and they were going under. And apparently they sent like a rescue team, and they said they saw part of the guy's body or something. And they said they saw something big in a big shadow swim by like that and just grab like part of the body or something or another part. I'll send you that report. I asked Scott Martis, what could this be? He sent me a list of things and then, Googled it on his little computer typewriter. He ended up showing me a giant turtle. And I'm like, man, that sounds like the Beast of Bosco.
Yeah, you know, I don't know if I heard that story, but I've heard about this giant turtle. Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I'm not sure if it's that same story, but I've heard about the just giant turtle. Yeah, that's crazy.
And I could see them being carnivorous because A, it's a reptile, and B, have you ever seen those videos where you'll see like a pigeon near the water and then a giant turtle? It's not a giant turtle, but it's like a snapping turtle. It's pretty big and just starts eating them.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I could see them, you know, being carnivorous or something. But isn't that crazy that happened at Carlsbad Caverns? That cable cord got snapped loose in that.
Yeah, that's pretty fascinating. I have to look into that. If you remember, send me that link. I'd love to look into that.
You got it. I got the full story. I'll send it right to you.
Yeah, I'd love to talk to that guy too. But you know, when you brought up Possum Kingdom, it reminded me of I got a friend of mine. He lives near Canyon Lake. I'll just say that. And we call him Larry. He was on Will Jevning's show. I don't know if you're familiar with Will Jevning, but Will Jevning has a show, and Larry contacted me, and so I gave him over. I gave him to Will. I give most of my Bigfoot stuff to Will because I'm part of the Jevning research group as far as Bigfoot goes.
Cool.
For those of you who don't know that, I'm part of Will Jevning's research group, Jevning Research Group. So yeah, he was out there. He was, I don't know, he was 13, 14, 15 years old. He was a teenager. He was fishing one night. He went out to the pier right off of Possum Kingdom, and he said all of a sudden he heard all this ruckus coming from the wood line, and all these deer come running out. Like where he was at was like a little cove, part of the lake, and these deer were running right into the water, straight into the water, trying to go across. He says deer don't just do that. They'll walk around this little cove, but they were taking a shortcut because something was after them. He says this Bigfoot comes out on all fours, grabs a deer, breaks its hind legs, and when it breaks its hind legs, it just leaves the deer there, and the deer is trying to run with his front feet, but of course, isn't getting any traction. And so he stands up because he's scared. Like, what the hell is this? He stands up, and when he stands up, the one that was on fours sees him, and it stands up and is looking at him. And then another one comes out that's even bigger, and they're just looking at this kid, at my buddy, and they're just kind of standing there. He said actually the big one came out with his arms extended, like he was trying to block the deer, But by that time, they had already spotted, my friend, and they just grabbed the one that was on the ground. They grabbed it, picked up under his arm, and he says he thinks it broke his neck because it stopped bleeding. When they're screaming, that's what they call it. So he said when he picked it up under his arm, it just stopped. And they walked off with it. And that was there in Possum Kingdom. Yeah.
Holy Moses.
yeah. I'll send you that story. So you can listen to it because he had a couple of other encounters, and anyone that wants to listen to it, just find Will Jevnick. He's on YouTube, and it's called Creek Devil. That's his name of his podcast. So I recommend anyone listen to Will.
Definitely check that out.
Yeah.
Can you imagine the power behind them? If they could snap a tree, I mean, just imagine the power behind the strength that these Bigfoots have. Wow.
Yeah, and he said he heard these bones break. He said he heard them.
Oh,
and, that had, and and he said that act in itself scared him. But believe it or not, he even had a more scarier encounter. I think it was in Colorado. But like I said, I'll send you that link, and if anybody wants to listen to it.
How many feet away was he?
He did say, I don't want to say because I might be wrong, but maybe 60. I don't know if it was 60 feet or 60 yards, but it was close enough to where they saw him, he saw them, and he says, as a matter of fact, they had those big lights, almost like stadium lights, like a football stadiums, like a high school football stadium. He said they had those big lights, and he said they clearly didn't want to go into the lights. He said, but they got close enough to the lights or in the lights where he could see them, and they saw him, and yeah, I'll definitely find that encounter and send it to you guys.
You think that's the first time they actually encountered something that bright? And they're like,
probably not, but they probably knew it was there. They probably been to that area several times, I'm sure. And he happened to be out there one night while they were doing their thing. They probably knew what they were doing, chasing it to the water. Knowing that they weren't able to escape.
Oh,
yeah. So, but what was I going to ask?
You ever heard of the Maltese Island?
Where's that one at?
That's in Italy. I had a friend who showed me something really cool, and it led to learning a lot more about cryptids. You were asking me earlier also what got me into cryptids more. There's a saying in Mexico, they call them cave demons, and these are like bat people in like Brazil and Vietnam. They're known as night flyers. I myself want you to check this out when you get a chance. It's in Italy. It was called the Maltese Island. And it's really weird because I don't know too much more about it except only what it gives. If you type in on the computer, missing children, creatures in caves, you will literally see something in the Maltese Island. And these kids and their teacher literally came up missing. And I don't know how much truth there is to this or if it's a debunked story, but that also too led me finding out more about the so-called bat creatures that are out there. And this thing apparently was flying around when this lady was a reporter, and she went looking for these kids in this cave. And the story goes back that there used to be a well in this area that a bunch of villagers had, and it just kind of collapsed, and somebody went in there and they saw another shaft to a tunnel and opened it, and they saw all these bones, kind of like the catacombs.
Mhm.
And I guess I don't know the year that this was supposedly supposed to happen, but it was a teacher, and she went on a trip with these little kids or something, like a field trip, and they somehow went into this cave system or whatever, and they all got lost. But I don't know, how much truth there is to that, but I just
Hmm.
thought I'd tell you about that. And the story is that the lady told the guy, let me down with the rope, and she said that she saw something like fly around her or something. And it's really interesting because in Brazil, they say that the villagers have to protect their cattle and their children because these giant bats come out at night.
Hmm.
But I didn't know if you ever heard any stories about that because I was doing some research
Hmm.
on the Mayans, and
Hmm.
there's a statue that looks really cool. And they said that they used to worship the death bat,
Hmm.
but I just thought I'd tell you that
Yeah,
it sounded really cool.
yeah. I'm fascinated by flying cryptids. Also, we've got plenty of that here in Texas too. There's been a lot of sightings of people call them pterodactyls. Or other flying entities for that matter. There's a couple of good stories, on YouTube regarding here in Texas. And when I actually lived outside of San Antonio for a couple of years, and I worked with a kid. I call him a kid. He was probably 24, 25 years old. To me, that's a kid. But he had on a Bigfoot. He had on a Bigfoot shirt, and so I asked him one day. I said, "Hey, what's going on with your Bigfoot shirt, man? Are you into this stuff or what?" He's like, "Yeah." He goes, "Me and my dad, we watch all the shows and stuff like that." And I said, "Okay, that's cool." So we started talking about Bigfoot a little bit, and come to find out, his mother was from South America, and she was from a small village. And he told me that they used to tell all the kids not to go near the river because there was like a big dinosaur that lived down there by the river. So when they went down there, they went down there as a group. No one went down there individually or in small groups. Because they said there was a dinosaur down there in the river, and it makes me wonder if it was a true dinosaur, if it was just something else. But you definitely get plenty of reports about dinosaurs or dinosaur-looking creatures all over the world too, and that's a subject I'd like to get into also.
Sam Rodriguez has a report on that where a bunch of people, I don't know how many people were on the bus, it was in Mexico, and they said that they were all looking out the window and they saw this pterodactyl flying
Hmm.
in broad daylight.
Yeah.
So the way they described it was just flying, and it was right there. Everybody saw it.
Hmm.
So I'm definitely going to have to get Sam to send you some of those
Yeah. Yeah.
stories.
Yeah. And I know I've heard reports where people reported like raptors. Seeing raptors. I don't remember if it was in Nevada or New Mexico or um, Arizona or somewhere. Probably one of the four corner
Arizona,
states. Yeah.
Arizona.
Okay. Yeah. It seems like there's always a lot of weird activity that goes on in the four corners region anyway. So yeah. But
More at night, right?
yeah. Yeah. But Mike, I guess we're just about out of time here, buddy. Man, time, man, it went by quick, didn't it? I,
Yeah,
we,
yeah.
we got to do this
I
again, man.
just want to say something real quick. What I like doing with my group is I like sharing a lot of podcasts. I like sharing as much as I can because I know everybody, we all love sharing stuff, but anything that I can get my grubby little paws on, I like just getting it out there and just spreading the love of podcasts and shows and everything I can do,
Yeah,
to help out and keep the flame alive and that's what I'm all about. I love doing it every chance I get, and we have some people in the group that share as much as they can, and I'm very appreciative of anybody, what they can do. And
yeah,
but I wanted to say again, thank you for thinking of me and I hope I wasn't too boring. I hope I was okay.
Uh, Dude, man, you definitely got a lot of information, and we need to do this again. And I definitely recommend anyone, look up his groups, the Cryptid Squad, the All Cryptid Stuff. Those are two of his Facebook groups. He's really really good at sharing information. He's really good at keeping that information flowing. I can't thank you enough for doing it. I think you do a great service to this community. So thank you for doing this, and thank you for doing this interview with me too.
Real quick, I got something funny to tell you real quick.
Okay, go ahead.
Sean Hammond, he's the guy from the Hillbillies. He made it on TV and he recorded himself on TV. I don't know if this is exactly what he said, but I got a kick out of him. They were like, this man lives in Kentucky. He's like, all my life. I busted out laughing because he was doing his own commentary while he was watching his own video. Props to that guy. He had the honor to get a Bigfoot howl, and he made it on, I believe the show's called That's Paranormal. And I got to see him where he did a live video, and he made me laugh. So he's got a great sense of humor from time to time, and that's good to have.
We need it in this field. I think sometimes people get too serious, and
I call it a business. My bad.
It's okay. It's okay. I think we need humor in this field. Too many serious people walking around here sometimes, and you need to chill sometimes and have fun with it. That's just the way I see it. It's one thing I tell everyone too. I think I made more friends in this field than I've probably in my own personal life. Definitely, made a lot of lifelong friends. I would have never met you for sure. I wouldn't. I got a friend named Shane Church, Jeremiah. Loopy.
It's an honor.
Osal. I would have never met these guys. It wouldn't have been for this. For this crazy field that we're in. So. And we all have a bunch of fun when we get together. That's all that matters, man. But thanks a lot for joining, man. I really appreciate it. I got to have you back on. You definitely got a bunch of knowledge. You got a bunch of stories.
And I will be doing boots on the ground in the future. I was recently invited by some individuals, and so I told them I was in, and I will be going back to Okla, and that's near me. So
yes. Well, you're welcome down here anytime, man. I do a lot of my research in the Sam Houston Forest, but I'm going to expand out to the Davy Crockett. No one ever goes there hardly, or I mean they do, but there's not enough people that go there really. Everyone goes to the Sam Houston, and then there's the Angelina Forest I want to go to also. So, dude, you're always welcome with me anytime, even if we just eat fajitas, drink beer.
That sounds wonderful.
Yeah. All right, man. Hold on, man. I'm about to end this broadcast. Thanks everybody for listening. And real quick, Michael, you got any advice for anyone? Any last minute advice?
Yes. If you are dealing with spirits, careful what you buy at a garage sale. That's just my advice. Spirits can get attached to things. Number 2, don't go out looking for these things, because I myself have never seen anything, but you don't know the situation. And always, regardless what happens, be aware of your surroundings, even in real life,
Yeah.
No matter where you are.
Good advice, man. All right, everyone. Thanks a lot for joining. Y'all have a good rest of your day. I appreciate you guys looking and listening. Thanks.